So right now in the last part of August, first part of September is a prime time to divide your iris. And if you have bearded iris, they really need divided every 2 to 3 years. You'll notice if they start to quit blooming on you and they look very crowded, that's when you need to divide your iris. But even if you aren't dividing them this year, there are some things that you can take care of right now. And you need to make sure to clean all the dead iris foliage out from around the plants. It's very important to get this out of the plant area so that you don't spread diseases to the rhizome. So even if you're not going to be dividing, you need to check your iris and make sure you've got that dead foliage cleaned out of there. Now the other thing that you want to do is to check the foliage on the plants and see how it looks. Now a lot of people will just standard come out and cut their iris foliage back this time of year. Well, if it's healthy, then you don't need to do that. However, a lot of times you'll see your foliage where it's got a lot of dead places on it. You need to cut that out. Again, that helps to prevent the spread of disease. So go through there and cut any dead iris foliage that you see out. Like here, we've got a little bit of burning on the tips. So we'll just cut that edge off right there. And that, again, will help clean up your iris bed. Now, if you are going to divide your iris, then you need to do a little bit more cutting back. So we would come along and cut our foliage off here about 6 to maybe 8 inches, and we just kind of miter the edge, kind of in a fan shape like this. Now we're going to go along and do that to all of our iris here. And the reason that we cut our foliage off when we transplant them is really for 2 reasons. One, we don't want to have all that extra foliage there transpiring water because our root system has been a little bit disturbed, and so it's not going to be taking up water quite as well. So we don't want the plant to wilt. The other thing is that the wind will not catch them and blow them over before they've had a chance to anchor in. So that's why we want to take that foliage down. Now after we've gone through and cut all our foliage off, the next step is to come in and to dig our iris. Now a spading fork here is a very good tool to do this. And you want to come back far enough so that you're not damaging your iris when you do it. So I'm just going to start here and start to dig. Now if you know this in advance, you might want to water a couple days ahead of time so that it's a little easier to get them out. And you may have to work a little bit at it, especially if it's a clump of iris that have been there for a while. And this may take me a little while to get these dug out.
What is it?
Okay, now as you lift these out of the ground, you can see just how tangled up they are. And I kind of come over here and you sort through these, kind of work them apart. And as you're doing this, check for any disease. Now you'll want to discard any diseased portions, and if you see some disease on the end, you can cut that off. Now when you do that, you want to dip your pruners in a 10% Clorox solution so that you don't spread that disease to any other rhizomes. Now, when you're ready to replant these, what you need is you need at least 1 growing tip, a section of rhizome, and also several good roots. Now here we've got 2 growing tips, and I'm actually going to cut this smaller one off. We'll just keep the large one, and then this end. Now we'll set that aside and let that kind of heal over, set it out of the sun, and then in a couple hours you can come back and plant. I've got one here that's ready to go. And when you're ready to plant, if your iris bed, you haven't had any problems with borers or disease, you can just plant back in the same spot. But dig your hole about 4 to 5 inches deep and about that large around too, and then come back in and fill the center with a mound of soil. Then you'll want to place your rhizome on the top so that your rhizome is no more than 1 inch beneath the surface of the soil. Spread your roots out and then start to fill around. Now, a rhizome actually grows in the direction of the leaf fan, so point those in the direction that you want them to grow. We'll fill this in, again, not covering over an inch, and firm the soil down really well so that they'll stay put, and then water them in well. Now, right at first, you want to watch the water really closely because they'll dry out, their roots aren't established. But after their roots have become established, iris don't like to be overwatered. Well, as I continue to plant these, I want to plant them about a foot apart. So if you want to replant your iris right now, is a really good time.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.